Hello, this is Brian Scuttle from Sonic Cinema, and this is a quick take review of a double feature that played this weekend at the Renegade Film Festival. It is for the double feature, The Once and Future Smash, and End Zone 2. I do want to say right off the bat that this was the one thing that I was not quite sure about how I was going to feel about it going in. Because there isn't a film called End Zone 2. But if you look on IMDb, you look on Letterboxd, you'll see entries for it, that it was made in 1970, and the characters and all of that. Is it a real film? Yes and no, and that's part of my issue with it. But first, let's start with Once and Future Smash, which is a mockumentary that follows the fandom of people for a film called End Zone 2, which is, according to the film that inspired the slasher genre, Texas Chainsaw, Friday 13th, and we get people who've written and performed in Texas Chainsaw movies. We get people who've written and performed in Friday 13th movies, including Victor Miller, Adam Marcus, Lloyd Kaufman, Richard Elfman, and a bunch of actors who've been part of the films in the slasher genre over the years. And it follows, in particular, the rivalry between two people, Mikey Smash and William Mouth, whom played End Zone 2's main villain, Smash Mouth, who is a deformed ex-football player who was bullied and after dying is coming back exacting revenge. This is a complicated thing to talk about because, by and large, I actually enjoyed Once and Future Smash. I thought it was entertaining. I love the fact that we get so many talking heads who just complete and real people, real filmmakers, whom allow us to believe that the film End Zone 2 actually exists. And we do see clips purported to be from End Zone 2 over the course of the film. And it's a really good use of the mockumentary form because it explores fandom, it explores what it's like to be an actor whom is known for only one thing, but you see them on the convention circuit. You see both Mikey and William on the convention circuit. It explores the idea of lost films, of cult films, of how cults build for films. And it does that all very convincingly. And I really did enjoy Once and Future Smash. I thought it was an entertaining mockumentary. It's not one of my favorites of the genre, but I think it does what it does very well. And I think it gets to the heart of what makes cult movies and exploitation movies so interesting for fans. And I think there's a lot of value in that. The double feature came when we saw what the film End Zone 2, we saw the film End Zone 2, which is not a real movie, except it is now a real movie, so what are we to make of this? This is where my reservations come in. This is where I was not quite sure how I was going to feel about this. Because it's like, okay, you're talking about a movie that, intellectually speaking, we understand does not exist, did not come out in 1970, and was simply a way for the film to explore horror fandom, to explore genre fandom, to explore the obsessive nature that one minuscule film can achieve, and yet you made the entire film. One of the things that I really like about Once and Future Smash is that it implies the fact that 30 minutes are missing from End Zone 2. And we see a reason for it, but the fact of the matter is it's very tenuous, and you're wondering, well, what happened to those last 30 minutes? Well, the film doesn't really, once you see End Zone 2, it really doesn't answer that. It kind of plays to the fact that this is an hour-long film. And you watch it, and this is where I'm so conflicted on this, because I respect the filmmakers for going out of their way to make the film, the fake film in its entirety. But when you set up the fact that it's supposed to be cheesy, the fact that it's supposed to be influential, the fact that it's supposed to have had this following, that's a lot to put on a film. That's a lot to put on a fake film. And I feel like that's where I feel like I feel like that's where my disconnect comes from, because End Zone 2 I did not think was very good. And I know it's intentionally not supposed to be, but I felt like I was told in a 5-minute joke in an hour. And it's like, okay, I kind of get it. I get you made the film that it doesn't exist. And it certainly is cheesy. It certainly is ridiculous. But it's not really entertaining. I didn't really find myself entertained by it. I didn't necessarily feel like the audience was entertained by it either. It's like, okay, you just made the movie. I feel like the way this could have worked is if they'd done it like Grindhouse. I think Grindhouse is kind of the most appropriate example. Like, the trailers that they did for Grindhouse. I mean, yeah, Machete became its own movie. I know there's been talk of Thanksgiving forever, but part of the reason those trailers are so effective as part of the experience is that they look like a film from that particular time, and they also look entertaining. And End Zone 2, you definitely tell it's got production value behind it, and even somewhat cheesy production value behind it. And I think that's kind of a problem, because I don't know, it doesn't allow the audience to be in on the joke that this film doesn't exist. In the context of Once and Future Smash, and seeing clips from it, we can feel like this long lost film, this film that few people have ever seen, except a lot of people seem to have seen, and is now being cannibalized and exploited by producers, existed and was you can kind of see where some of the fandom and curiosity could have come from. When you actually watch the entire thing, it kind of breaks that illusion, and that's a problem because of the fact that, I mean, it doesn't help that, all due respect, I was kind of bored by Endzone 2. The production values were fine. The music was good. And the music won Best Music for the festival. But you could tell that was not a movie made for a pittance in 1970. Some of the use of color seemed way too over the top for the time period, for that low of a budget, and for that type of a cult film. It kind of is the difference between, Troll 2, which Once and Future Smash features the writer and director of Troll 2, which I love. Troll 2 is a terrible movie, but Troll 2 is an entertaining movie because it's trying to do something sincere. I feel like Endzone 2 is trying to do I feel like by making Endzone 2, they're trying to do something sincere, but they're also trying to do something poorly. And it doesn't but it feels like everything was done seriously too, and it's not a matter of so serious it's funny. The performances in it, like, I feel the performances in the film, the film is what Once and Future Smash is, but I just I'm struggling with it. And I hate feeling like I hate feeling like Once and Future Smash is diminished because of the existence of Endzone 2. And that's where my real issue is with the concept of this double feature. Now, if you wanted to, because it's like, oh, now you're asking people to believe that this movie was made in 1970. It's like, well, you can obviously do all of those effects of the scratch prints, the old prints and stuff like that with digital, with digital effects now. And like I said, the lighting is too good. And it's, the performances are what they are in Endzone 2. But they don't, and they feel genuine, but they don't necessarily feel sincere. I think is where this double feature trips me up, because I did enjoy Once and Future Smash. I enjoyed the fact that the filmmakers got all of these horror icons and horror filmmakers, especially, to make us feel like this film existed when it didn't. And I feel like making the film itself, as opposed to just leaving it with the clips, is where the issue is. I feel like if the movie was just about the mockumentary, I would have liked it. I would have liked it a lot more, and I would have felt better about the overall experience. But Endzone 2 just took me out of the experience at a time where it's supposed to immerse you further into the idea of, oh, this movie does exist. And I just felt that it didn't. And you could tell that it didn't until the idea for Once and Future Smash came together. So those are my thoughts on Once and Future Smash and Endzone 2. I think if you want to see Once and Future Smash, I think it is well worth your time. If you want to watch the double feature, realize that seeing something that another movie has kind of promised you, it's almost like a passion project, where it's like passion projects are sometimes very difficult to get off the ground and make worthwhile because you've thought about it for so long. And this is kind of the same way, where I feel like End Zone 2 is the passion project. Once in Future smashes the passion project, End Zone 2 is the result of that passion project, and it just fell flat for me. And that's about as... And I hate that I feel that way. I genuinely hate that I feel that way, because it's a creative idea. It's definitely a very creative idea, but it's one that I just didn't resonate with me. And arguably the most important part of it, when you make the movie, didn't resonate with me. And didn't resonate with me as something that entertained me, and it kind of took down the experience of what was a really lovely and charming documentary. But those are my thoughts on Once in Future Smash and End Zone 2. I know I've been rambling a lot, but this was a complicated one. It really was. And I feel like if I just watched Once in Future Smash, I would have been entertained more than I was. So those are my thoughts. This is Brian Scuttle. This is one of my final reviews for Sonic Cinema's coverage of the Renegade Film Festival. Overall, I love the festival. Even something like this, which I'm ultimately of a mixed mind on and have very complicated feelings on, I still find interesting. It's interesting that the filmmakers decide to not only make this mockumentary to get people who are known in the industry to make us feel like this movie that didn't exist existed, but then to decide, you know what, I'm going to make that movie as well. I mean, that's an interesting idea. I just don't feel like the execution is there. So I hope that this is a stepping stone to something else that I'm entertained more by. And that's going to be it for this. This is Brian Scuttle. Thank you so much for checking my work out at Sonic Cinema, www.sonic-cinema.com, www.patreon.com/Sonic Cinema. Thank you. And I hope you come back. I've got a great podcast episode head your way for the festival. It's going to be terrific. Thank you.